In some situations, there's a large gap between how much a person is willing to pay for a handmade quilt versus how much time, effort, and materials actually goes into making that quilt. So I decided to do a little experiment. This is the latest quilt I've made, and while I was making it, I documented every single second how long it took for each task, as well as how much it cost for each material used, as well as tools, machine maintenance, etc. Save this for next time somebody asks you to make them a quilt. To provide some background, this is a throw size quilt. It finished at about 67 by 76 inches. I needed to purchase some yardage. It was about 9 yards, and then a layer cake to make this quilt. The cost of just the fabric alone was $167.31. I will say that if you were making quilts all the time, you're probably going to get better pricing, know where to get the fabrics a little cheaper, and these are also kind of a more expensive brand. This is Ruby Star Society for the layer cake. So I guess my point is here that the cost of the fabric alone will vary greatly depending on the project, size of the quilt, and then the brand of the fabric, and if you're able to purchase in wholesale or in bulk. Next, I factored in the cost of thread and other items such as machine maintenance, a new rotary blade, quilting needle, piecing needle, basting spray, and starch. This totaled $23.50. And then I buy my batting in bulk, so I did a rough estimate for this, totaling at $12 for the batting. Now let's get into the actual process and the labor part of the quilt. I received a ton of answers from some followers about how much to pay myself per hour, and honestly, the answers were all over the place. So I just went with $20 an hour, but at the end of this video, I break it down for $10, $20, and $30 an hour. It took me 12 minutes to do the pattern planning and fabric selection, 5 minutes to print and cut my pattern pieces, 51 minutes to cut out my pieces and press them with starch, a whopping 400 minutes for my piecing. This number would also vary greatly depending on the pattern. The pattern I did is actually pretty straightforward. It's 42 blocks, all with just one seam. The seam was a curve, but other than that, it was not very complicated. Basting the quilt actually took me 45 minutes. Yeah. And then 130 minutes of just quilting that quilt, and then another 70 for binding, and that is it. Our total for the cost of this quilt is, oh, but wait, let's add some selling fees on here. Etsy charges about 6.5%. So if I were paying myself $20 per hour, this would bring us to $476.21 for this quilt. At just 10 an hour, it would be $346.10, and 30 an hour, $606.32. And it was a total time of 12 hours and 22 minutes. I would love to know your thoughts on this. Should I do this with another quilt, maybe a more complicated large one? And to answer the question of how much it should be per hour, I honestly have no idea. I don't think $20 an hour is right or wrong. I don't plan on selling quilts myself, and I had all sorts of answers, anywhere from minimum wage up to $60 an hour.